Welcome back to the Sensible Mama podcast. I am Paulina Westcott, your host. Super excited to see you all today. Before we get into it, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, trying to get up there in the numbers, and share it with a pregnant mama that you think might benefit, okay? And with no further ado, I would like to introduce to you all, my guest today is Gissell. She is the Crafty Doula. She is here in Connecticut. Why don't you introduce yourself, tell us what you do, how long you've been doing it, and then we'll dive in.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Again, my name is Gissell. I'm the Crafty Doula. I've been a doula without a certification for over 18 years. I got certified about 2 years ago, and I serve the New Haven area, sometimes Bridgeport as well. And I'm a birth and postpartum doula, and I do support families going through perinatal bereavement.
So for anybody who doesn't know what that means, what does that mean?
The birth or postpartum
Perinatal
doula,
bereavement.
the
What would that mean?
perinatal bereavement is families that have gone through a loss, whether it is a miscarriage, stillbirth, um, you know, any type of loss of a child. We assist you with support, whether that is physical support, virtual support, any type of support. If you need support, making the arrangements, any support that we can offer and resources, we are here for you.
That is a very special job. I think it takes a very special kind of person to do something. I mean, you know, that's true of a lot in birth work. Birth work is not for everybody. It's definitely a whole thing, but specifically having to do with helping families who have gone through a loss, that takes a very, very special kind of soul to be able to offer that kind of support. I think that's very special.
Yeah, it does. I've lived through it myself, so it's near and dear to my heart. And later on, we can probably touch on how it touched me and how I decided to take a positive outlook on it and make a difference for the communities that I serve.
I love that. All right. Well, if you don't mind, let's just dive right in. So your story doesn't begin, of course, at that part. So we'll rewind a little bit. Walk us through the story, your birth stories, your experience, and what led you to this beautiful and powerful line of work.
Okay, so like I said, 18 years ago, I was able to attend my nephew's birth. It was the most amazing thing I had ever experienced. And I knew then that I wanted to do something in birth work. I just wasn't sure what that was. Fast forward, a few years later, I had my daughter, who is now 11. And due to the support that I had, I said, you know what, there's so many people out there that probably don't have this type of support. Now I have to go in and look and see how I can be a support person for those who don't have that type of support. And that's where everything started. I wasn't able to get my certification right away, but I was definitely involved in anything birth work, midwifery, books, you name it. I was finding out, I was putting myself in there. And that's how everything started. And fast forward 2 years ago, I was able to get my certification, and here I am, living the dream.
So what was the birth of your daughter like? How did that, if you want to share the birth story, that'd be great.
Definitely. Well, my daughter, it was a good birth. Everything went well. She was on time. I was due February 2nd. She decided that my birthday is on the 29th of January. So I was a little nervous. I'm like, am I going to have her on my birthday? Like, what's going to happen? But February 1st, she made her initial descent, and she was just, it was a long birth, I would say, but I had the support. I chose to not stay in bed. I chose to walk. I chose to do the exercises, get in the shower, do the work, and it paid off. It paid off. I mean, we had talks because of how long it took about C-section, but she arrived right on time. They know when their time is, and she knew that Mama wasn't trying to do that. And so she arrived February 2nd, and everything went well. Everything went well. I had my sister, who's an LPN, She was in the room supporting. My husband was there, my mom and his mom. So we had a big team, and my midwife was there as well. Um,
Wow,
so it was a big team, and everything went well.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
If you don't mind me asking, how long was the labor?
Oh gosh, I try to forget. It was long. I started getting pains. I want to say it was like Friday night.
Mm,
And then everything started transitioning. I kind of knew that I wanted to do a lot of in-home labor. I knew that I didn't want to transition into the hospital until I felt like we were in active labor. And Saturday morning, so I was getting contractions. Friday, it began around, I want to say 10 o'clock at night,
mm.
all through the morning. I didn't sleep. And then around 1 o'clock in the afternoon on Saturday, I went in and I said, something's happening. Contractions are getting more close to each other. They're getting stronger. I feel like something's happening. And sure enough, I got there. I was already dilated 4 centimeters. They said, "Oh, go walk around. We'll fix the room." And my water broke. And they were like, "Okay, now you need to come upstairs, and we need to see what your birth plan is, and we need to take it from there." And so she arrived Sunday morning.
Wow.
So it was over 24 hours.
Wow.
Yes.
That's a lot of work.
Yeah. A lot of work. But it's funny because I felt like I was so exhausted. But when they were like, "Oh, you're completely dilated. It's time to push." I don't know where the energy came from. I was I was awake. It was like I wasn't tired anymore.
I don't know. The woman's body is something miraculous.
Amazing.
I mean, mine was not quite as long. Mine was 23. My first was 23 hours. And I remember hitting that like low valley where I was like, Mama needs a nap. Like I'm done. I can't. And you really practice the mind over matter because
Sure
that's
do.
and everything that goes into it. I mean, the good support team, having a midwife or a doula or somebody who knows tips and tricks to help you kind of get your head back in the game and get your energy back up. And I remember that same thing where I was like, all right, let's go. And I like revved up and I'm like, there is no physical reason that I should have this much energy to do this. Like,
I know.
I've
I
just been
know.
falling asleep, and your body, your hormones, your mind, everything just kind of
Works together.
rearranges, and you're like, all right, let's go. We're back in. And then you have your baby, right? And then that's when the hormones really kick in, and you're like, suddenly, at least for me, I guess I shouldn't speak for all women everywhere, but for me, I was like, now I should give myself permission to feel tired and like take a nap.
But you
Um,
don't.
and I'm just like high on baby smell or
Yeah.
something. It's
Yeah.
the oxytocin and the adrenaline and the dopamine and everything is just this concoction of like blissful something.
Yeah. Yeah. It sure is. It sure
It's
is.
wild. All right, so now you have a beautiful baby girl.
Yes.
Then what happens?
Then 4 years later, we decided to try again, and we got pregnant again. The second one was a boy, and unfortunately, we lost that baby at 16 weeks. Well, about 17, almost 17 weeks. And that was hard, very, very hard, which is why I decided to work with families that provide that support during that time, because I want to say that the clinical side of it was a little bit difficult because I don't feel that the delivery was appropriate. It seemed like there wasn't much empathy, and I can understand both point of views almost, because it's almost like, okay, that's your job, but for me, it was not something I was expecting. I didn't go in there to hear what I heard.
Yeah, if you would be so kind. I know it's obviously tricky to talk about these things, but it's also important because there's mamas out there that go through this. It's not, it doesn't happen often, but it happens often enough that I would like to have the conversation. When we were on the phone together, you told me how it went, like how that visit, how that appointment went. And it was hard for me to listen to, but I'd like for you to share it again if you don't mind, because
Yeah, I don't.
somebody out there to learn something from this.
Yeah, no, definitely. And if it could help someone, even clinical staff, I mean, I'm hoping doctors and providers also are seeing your podcast, and maybe this is something that could help them as well. So, in detail, we went in to find out the gender of the baby, and also to make sure everything was well. And my husband and my daughter came along. They were in the room with me, and the ultrasound tech, she came in, she was doing her thing. I could see in her face something wasn't right, but I wasn't sure what was happening. I said, well, maybe something's not, 100% with the baby. Like, let's just wait and see. She leaves the room and tells me she needs to go get the doctor. I said, okay. She comes back with the doctor, and the doctor doesn't say anything. She starts checking me, and I'm like, okay, like, is somebody going to tell me what's happening? Like, what's going on? And she just bluntly said, oh, well, there's no heartbeat. My daughter was there, like I said, she was 4 at the time. My husband, I screamed like so loudly. My daughter was just in shock. She started crying, she started shaking. My husband is trying to take care of her, take care of me, and also process what's happening. And to all of this, it was like there was no empathy. She never asked me, did I want to take my daughter out the room? There was just no conversation. There was no preparing me for what I was getting ready to hear. It was just nothing. So that became a whole nother problem, because obviously we needed help after that. We were taken into a room where it kind of hit us, because it was almost like we were all in shock and we couldn't really understand what was happening. I don't feel like we got the resources that we needed at the time. I don't even remember if someone came in the room to talk to us. I just think that I left the ultrasound room confused with my family. We were taken into this other room where we all cried together, trying to like make sense of what just happened. Then we just left. It was like, I think they said your doctor's gonna give you a call and you'll make arrangements or something along those lines. So it was a lot. It was a lot. It caused my daughter, to have anxiety. There were a lot of questions that came after. Did baby brother not think I was going to be, the sister that he needed, and things like that. It was a process. It was a process, but eventually we were able to overcome that point in our life. I will say that grief comes and goes. Even though we never met our baby, Gabriel, we named him. Even though we never met him, it's like he was still part of our family for that amount of time. So we still talk about it. We still grieve. And there's no time for grief. So, there's no time limit. You grieve, and he was a part of me for that time, for those 16, 17 weeks. And I'm sure that he will be for the rest of my life. At the end of the day, it was a baby, that we lost. So yeah, so it's a tough topic, but I feel that talking about it, connecting with other moms that have gone through something like that or similar, helps in the process. I'm not saying it's going to make it better, definitely not right away, but it definitely does help in feeling that you're not alone in this process. A lot of women tend to question themselves, what could I have done differently? Or, unfortunately, sometimes it happens. So, yeah.
Now, if you were talking to a mama who, let's say, is going through this now or has recently, what what do you wish had been either done for you, or what do you wish you had done? What would be your advice to a mama in that position? Now, with the sort of the caveat that, of course, nothing is going to take away the pain. Like you said, like nothing is going to make it okay. But what do you think? What would you say to a mama going through this right now?
Going through this right now, like, what would I have changed in, like, in the delivery, like, as to how they let her know that this was happening, or if they're just
I
going
guess
through it?
that part was kind of out of your control, right? Like you
Yeah,
can't put the words
definitely.
into the doctor's mouth. But what do you wish had been available to you, or what, like there's postpartum doulas, support groups. What would be your advice for a mama going through this?
I would say communicating. We tend to shut down and hold it in. I know that I did. I would say surrounding yourself with people, even though in that moment, maybe not immediately, because you do need your time to process, but not pushing people away. I did that as well, and it wasn't as effective as I thought it was going to be. So, you know, accepting that support and almost like healing together, because not only mom goes through it, dad goes through it too, maybe in a different way. Siblings, parents, anyone that knows that this baby is going to arrive will be affected in some way. Um, I would say trying to communicate and letting the people that are close to you know what you want in that time. If all you want is to be left alone in that time, then having those people do the work for you. Something like that. I feel like that would have been good for me, because it was hard. Every time someone would ask me, it's like reliving it over and over and over and over again. I also wish that I had more resources. I wish that someone would have sat with me and said, this is what we have to offer you. Maybe this is not something you want to look at this time, but just know that it's there for you.
Right.
I didn't get that.
How long, if you remember, how long do you think it took you to sort of get your bearings and be able to deal with things with some semblance of normalcy?
I'd say it took about 3 months.
Wow. Okay.
About 3 months to kind of get back in my routine and kind of get things back into place. It was just a crazy time, I tell you. Our loss was in 2018, the beginning of August. The end of August, it affected my husband to so much. He got shingles
Oh,
in his
jeez.
early 30s, which was when the doctors were checking him. They were like, "This is like unheard of. Usually, older people get shingles." It was like his nervous system was all out of whack. It was like everybody was going through it. So it was a lot, but we did overcome it, and now we're able to help other people that are going through this, and in a more
I
positive way.
love that you took something so difficult and turned it into something so positive. That is just so inspiring.
Thank you. Yeah, I had to do it. I felt like I had to do it. I felt like, you know what? I don't want any other mom to feel that way. Um, Something has to change, and why not start with me? Like I can support you, and it's different when you've lived through it, than when you haven't. I mean, obviously, it's not something I'm hoping on anyone, but if you have that support, it does make a difference. It makes a
It's
difference.
true. I mean, I've never. I did have a miscarriage. I had a miscarriage when I was 7 or 8 weeks, so it was early. It was hard, and we were talking about this on the phone too. Like the amount of weeks, everybody's experience is different, right? Which is true of anything. That's true of birth. That's true of life.
Yep.
You may have a miscarriage at 6 weeks. You may have a miscarriage at, 17 weeks. You might have a stillbirth much later or at full term. All of these are very difficult situations. And one is not harder or easier than another. And I've heard stories of people dealing with any and all of the above, and everybody deals with it differently. Everybody processes it differently. It's hard to say, oh, well, that person's was easier and different. Of course, every experience is different. That being said, I don't know that I could give the same support to somebody, who's going through this later on in pregnancy, of course I can be empathetic and I can be as understanding as I can be, but not having gone through something like that myself so late in the game. Somebody like you is so invaluable, where you've gone through it. You know what it's like. It's like, there are doulas out there that have never had a baby. And I'm like, I don't think it's impossible. I think that's fine. I'm sure there are doulas out there that are great, but when you've gone through it yourself, your birth is going to be different from any clients that you have, because no two births are the same, right? But having that sort of subjective, reality, it's real to you, the emotions, you have some semblance of a concept of what the person is going through. And it helps, where you can say the right things and you can deliver the communications in such a way that can be received, which is, it's everything. You can say the same thing, you can tell somebody that the child inside them doesn't have a heartbeat a million different ways. And out
You
of those
sure can.
different ways, there are some that are worse and some that it's a hard communication to give and to receive, but you want to do it in a way that will be received with the least amount of damaging impact, right? And so somebody like you, having gone through the wrong way to do this, helping other people be able to process and assimilate and hopefully help providers learn to communicate it with a little more empathy and a little more warmth and heart and understanding, right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Definitely. And also validating, we spoke about this as well. It's 6 weeks, 8 weeks. I know they say it's normal, right? In clinical terms. However, you still need to validate. That was still your baby for 6 weeks. The moment you see that line and that positive on the stick, that is your baby. You're already, the illusion is there. Is it going to be a boy? Is it going to be a girl? What are we going to name it? You know, what is the room going to look like? The nursery? Am I going to get the new stroller that just came out? All these things you think about the moment you see that positive. So
And I would
validating.
add, you also even start thinking about the stressful parts of motherhood. I remember when we were not trying to get pregnant when I first got pregnant, at all. Like, that was definitely a surprise. And so I hadn't been looking at strollers and I hadn't been thinking about nurseries, and so I had the 6 or 7 weeks or whatever that this baby was around. I managed to plan an absurd amount of things. I was already starting to research. I don't know the gender, mind you. Like, you don't find out until closer to 20 weeks, right? I'm
Yep.
already trying to decide. I need to start researching if I need to circumcise or not. What if it's a boy? I'm like, this
I
is
know.
how a mother's mind works. It's like click, 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 all these things, like the good, the bad. Of course, I was imagining I was going to have it at some birth center, and I started doing research and what prenatal vitamins are used. But like, the amount of planning that I crammed into that 6 or 7 week period boggles my mind. And I did it. But I look back and I'm like, how did I manage to plan so much? You know?
In such little time. And
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. There needs to be a validation. And it's almost like it's almost dismissed.
Mhm.
Sorry for your loss. You're still young. Oh, I love that one. You're still young.
Mhm.
You can still get pregnant if you try now. You have higher chances of those are not things you want to hear.
At least it was early on.
Like, no, there's no validation. There's no, um, how are you feeling? Is there something I can do for you?
Hmm.
Is there something that you need? I know this is difficult. Like, I mean, I'm sure, and I hope that there are providers that maybe have that type of training,
For
to
sure.
be
Yeah.
empathetic but I haven't seen many. I can say that.
As we're talking, I had totally forgotten about this. And the memory just came like flooding back. I remember, so after the miscarriage, I assume in every case, I don't actually know, they do blood work to make sure that your HCG levels are coming down enough. And I remember going into the office, and the woman that took the blood, she was just she wasn't my cup of tea at the beginning. Like, from the bat, I was like, all right, just get it over with, take my blood, whatever.
Yep.
But now here I am. And of course, she knows what, I come in, she's like, sorry for your loss. I was like, okay, thanks. And then we're sitting there, and she's taking some oodles of vials of blood out of my arm. And I'm not like visibly a mess, but like, of course this is on my mind. And it's summertime. I think it was like early August, maybe late July. And she is yapping about the guy who has to do her pool brought the wrong chemicals, and now her pool is green and she can't use the pool, and she's got party planned, and how dare they. And I'm like, do you know how much I do not care about your pool problems right now? Like, on what level is this something that you think is appropriate? And whatever, like, of course, in that moment, I was also hypersensitive because hormones are whack.
Yep.
I just went through this huge thing where I wasn't expecting a baby. Then suddenly I had a baby, and I planned this whole future in this short amount of time. Then suddenly I'm not told. I mean, I knew what was happening because it all happened at home for me. So like, it wasn't a provider necessarily that gave me the news, but my body did, and it was its own version of chaos, And so I'm going through all this, and she's telling me, she has the audacity to be whining about how her in-ground pool is too green for the party this weekend. And I was like,
no, that's a big no-no.
Like, fade into the wall and not exist here anymore.
I completely understand. I completely understand what you're saying. It's like, I mean, I don't even know why would she even, like, who cares about the pool? Like, and it's like, sorry for your loss. Okay. I don't know. I feel like it's almost dismissive. Like, sorry for your loss. You're not even asking, like, are you all right? Or,
even if
let's have a conversation about something else. I don't know. Not your pool, obviously.
Even if she had said nothing, she just said, sorry for your loss, let's do this. And then she just took the vials of blood in a respectful silence.
Exactly.
Probably would have no memory of that interaction, like it would have just been part of the whole thing. But I just remember, I'm like, I guess it doesn't matter, is kind of the vibe you get, where I'm like, I guess this isn't a big deal, and I'm making it a big deal, and maybe I'm the crazy one for
making it
a deal,
But it was, you see, but it was. It's just, I feel like there needs to be more training with everyone. Like you said, even just being in silence, let you be with your thoughts in that moment. That would have been better than talking about her pool or whatever the case was. That's just, and I'm sorry you had to experience that,
Yeah, I had totally forgotten about it until literally we're sitting here right now talking, and then suddenly I was like, I it takes a lot to offend me. I tell people, I'm like, you can call me names, you can say a lot of things about me, and I'm like, all right, whatever. Like, it takes a lot. But I remember in that moment being like, and I didn't feel offended. That's not even the right word. I felt like maybe I was off, and that is, I guess, that is a way of offending someone, where you're like, oh, well, this is a big deal to you because it's not a big deal. It's kind of the vibe that I got, right?
Yep. See, for me, I had no clue that I was having a miscarriage. I had no symptoms, nothing. Everything was fine. I felt very little movement. So maybe an advice for moms: follow your gut. If you feel like something is off or not normal, if you feel like something, just call your doctor, get checked. just to be on the safe side, just to make sure everything is going well.
Yeah, mama instincts are a force to be reckoned with.
They sure are.
It goes in both directions. I want to like, your instincts sometimes will tell you that something is off or something is wrong when there seems to be no other indication that something is off or wrong. That's something that you should pursue. Other times, your instincts will tell you that everything is great and that everything is good and fine, despite there being either indicators or medical professionals telling you that something should be done about some situation. Also fight for your gut feeling in that scenario because it goes
Yes.
in both directions.
Always fight for your gut feeling. You should always just to be on the safe side, I would say, definitely. And if your provider is not supporting what you're fighting for or what you stand for, definitely look into changing providers.
Yes.
Everyone should be on board.
Agreed. So now, your story continues. Your story didn't end there.
It does.
Talk about that.
It does. So we tried for about a year and a half. And it was hard because nobody tells you about the disappointment. Like when you see that it's not happening, or you felt like it might have happened right away, and all these things that they tell you that, no one knows. I mean, it could have happened 2 months later, but in my case, it didn't. It happened 2 years later during COVID. I was pregnant again, with my son. He's 4 now. He's my rainbow baby, Valentino, and it was hard. Not only were we going through COVID and all the uncertainties and all of that, but I was having to go to the appointments alone. I was also having to kind of deal with the anxiety, the unknown. We didn't tell anyone until I was about 22 weeks. I was way past my previous pregnancy. I remember my mom getting a little upset about that. She didn't believe me when I told her. I was like, Mom, I'm pregnant. She was like, no, you're not. I'm like, yeah, and I'm actually this far along. She's like, no, you're not. I'm like, yes, I am. Sorry. But yeah, it took a lot, thankfully. So let me just backtrack a little bit. With my daughter, I was going to a specific practice. Everything was well. I loved the midwives there. For some reason, I want to say it was like an issue with insurance. I don't remember exactly what it was. I couldn't go back there with my second pregnancy. So I had to go to a different practice. So I felt like everything was wrong from the beginning.
Jesus.
So with my loss, it was through a different practice. For my third pregnancy, I went back to the midwifery center that I was going to, and again, everything, they were so supportive. They understood when I felt like I had, any doubts, or just the anxiety of it all. I would just have to call them and say, hey, can we just have a heartbeat check? I just want to make sure. They understood. They helped me out so much. And everything was great. Everything was great. My son was... He was everything and then some. My delivery was tough with him. He knew everything was everything that was going on out here. He knew the world was crazy at that time. And he was like, I'm not going out there.
Probably
So
smart.
41 weeks. And this little boy, yeah, I had to get induced twice. I still hold the title in the hospital, actually, the first person that had to get induced twice. And yeah, it was a hard delivery, but I had the support that I needed, and that made all the difference. So yeah, and it was a blessing. After he arrived, it was like, okay, now our family is complete.
Wow. What a story, man. Like, life is crazy, right?
Thing about my third pregnancy that I'm not sure if I spoke about this with you, but gestational diabetes.
Mm.
So with my second pregnancy, I had gestational diabetes. Never with my daughter. With my second pregnancy, I had gestational diabetes. With my third pregnancy, I also had gestational diabetes, and immediately the nutritionist wanted to put me on insulin.
Mm.
And I said, well, just wait a second. You just told me that I have gestational diabetes. Okay, I can understand that. But you're not even going to give me some time to, make get my body where it needs to be before introducing insulin. I said that's not happening. I'm going to take your advice. I'm going to look at all these things that you listed here as products that may be good for a diet. I'm going to follow this diet. I'm going to, check my numbers, and I'm going to see if this is something that I can control. If I find that my body does not respond, then we can talk about insulin. But I'm not just going to happen right away. Let me tell you, I was able to get my insulin controlled with a diet, right? I never had to use insulin with my third pregnancy. I was strict too. I saw what was working for me, and I'm like, I'm not moving from here. This is what I'm going to eat throughout the
Listen, but
entire pregnancy.
it takes a certain. I had this conversation with another doula in recent weeks where I'm like, there's a certain. I don't know if it's a mindset or a certain philosophy or just this undercurrent that maybe some of us are born with, maybe some of us acquire it at an early. I don't know where it comes from. But the sort of through line with all of us people is we want to take responsibility for our own situation, and we don't just relinquish that responsibility and control to the medical profession.
Exactly.
Some people just want to say, hey doc, here's a symptom, and doctor says symptom equals drug, here's the drug, I'll take the drug, thank you, have a nice day. Some people are like that. Some of us are just not wired that way. And we say, no, I want to be in control. That being said, there is a time and a place for medical intervention. Absolutely.
Of course.
You better believe I will find my way to a doctor and a hospital under the right circumstances. But so often there is just like, hey, there's an indicator, here's a quick pill to fix it. But it doesn't fix the underlying problem. Or maybe there's other ways that don't have so much risk that maybe takes a little bit more work than just popping a pill, because popping a pill doesn't require that much effort. Being strict on a diet when your hormones are raging and your cravings are out of control,
tell me about it.
That's not a walk in the park. Probably taking the insulin would have been easier in the sense that it would have been less work for you. But then what are the risks? What other situations can arise as a result of that? Like, is a pill always the right answer? Absolutely not. Sometimes you gotta fight for like, hey, no, I'm willing to put in the work. I'm willing to do the exercise. I'm willing to eat the right foods. I'm willing to cut out this from my diet or whatever, or eat this, supplement that tastes nasty, or whatever the case may be,
Still today, I can't have a banana. I mean, it's crazy. I cut everything off. And, I'm happy I did, because at the end of the day, it was a benefit for me and for my body, for my pregnancy at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Just an advice, like, yeah, if you feel like it's not something that's setting well with you, definitely ask questions, research. There are other things that we can do, and find support. There's a lot of support out there. I remember that she was so impressed, the nutritionist. She was like, do you mind if I use your numbers? I'm like, no. And if you need me to come in there and talk to anybody, I'd be more than happy to. Of course. Please stop offering all these things. And I was very strict. I was like, no. You need to give, if my body is reading that as of right now, you need to give my body time, right? I mean, you're going through all these hormones, you're craving all kinds of things. give my body some time to adjust to this diet. Let's give me a week and a half. If in a week and a half the numbers are still looking right when I'm being strict, then obviously we need to talk about something else.
Right,
But
right. I think that's great. And it's good to like the other thing is you got to think these medical professionals are trained a certain way, right? They're told if this is the case, this is what you're supposed to do. And that's it's called standard of care. That's the standard of care. That's what you usually do in this scenario. But that doesn't mean there aren't alternatives. And I'm talking now, I mean, obviously we're talking about pregnancy and labor and childbirth related things, but this is true of anything, right? Like you have I was going to say you have the right, you have the responsibility, as far as I'm concerned, to ask the question, what else? What other options do I have? What happens if I don't? There's this acronym that keeps coming up in you know the books that I read and the doulas that I talk to is a very popular acronym. It's BRAIN, right? What are the benefits? What's good about this pill you're going to give me? You know, why is this a good idea? Give me all the pros. What are the risks? Because no medical intervention is without risk. Let's be real. Nothing in life is without risk. You step outside of your house and there's a risk. I don't know. You eat sushi. There's a, like, everything has risk. Some of the risk is super duper low. And you just say, okay, well, I'm going to get in my car today and drive because the risk outweighs the, you know, or the benefit outweighs the risk.
the risk, exactly.
BR, benefit, risk. A, alternatives. Super important because there are, more often than not, there are options. Like, okay, you could take insulin. You could do a finger prick and monitor your glucose levels yourself. You know, you could just go on a crazy strict diet and come back and get tested later. Like, you have alternatives. Maybe there's other drugs that they have. I don't know. There's alternatives, right?
Intuition.
Tuition. This is what we were talking
That's
about.
the big one.
You gotta trust your gut, man. You know, like, nobody knows you and your body like you. No doctor. They might know anatomy. They might know the names of all the bones and all the organs and the hormones and the chemicals and stuff. Fantastic. But nobody is in your body. You are. You're there on a daily basis. Like, you know what makes you feel good. You know what makes you feel bad. You know when something is normal. I don't know, you have a headache and you're like, oh yeah, I didn't drink water. I should drink some more water. You also know when there's a headache that's like, oh no, this is something else. This is something bad. You need to advocate for your intuitive feelings and knowledge.
Definitely.
And then there's the last one. N, for nothing. What happens if we don't do anything? What happens if we just wait? Sometimes the answer is going to be something really bad is going to happen if you do nothing. Okay, good. Then you know. Or it's, well, there is a 0.005% risk of something bad happening. Cool. I'm willing to take that risk. Let's do nothing. Is also an option they have.
Also taking in the information that you're given and, you know, processing that. You don't have to answer immediately right then and there. Ask for 5 minutes, ask for 10 minutes. Process that information with your support people, with whoever's in the room with you, your spouse, whoever's there with you to support you. Process that information. Everyone has Google it, you know. Just make sure that you feel comfortable with that information that you're giving and that your voice is being heard, because there are many things that we consent to that we can say no to, that we're just not aware of.
Yeah.
So just making sure that you know that you're being heard is the most important.
And then just to play devil's advocate a little bit, on the flip side, don't just say no for the sake of saying no. You know,
Exactly. Yes.
don't dig your heels in because you've already dug them and now you don't want to undig them. You know, like, be willing to change your mind, because hey, circumstances might change also. I've seen birth stories where the mama's like, no interventions, nothing's happening, everything natural. Nah. Great. I am the first person to be all for that. You know, no intervention is my ideal scenario. But then maybe you're in labor and new information comes up about the baby's heart rate or whatever. Take the information, take the suggestions, ask all your questions, and then just like pretend you have no preconceived ideas for a second, which is hard. Easier said than done, I know. But say, okay, in this moment of time, with this new knowledge of what's going on and what my options are and everything else, what is the right decision in the now? Not 5 minutes ago where I was determined that I was going to have no interventions, but like right now, everything considered, is that still the right option? And maybe it is. It could be. But be willing to look at it freshly and with a unchained point of view. So like you're not just saying no for the sake of saying no because you feel like being combative or whatever. Like,
Definitely.
That's hard, you know, because
it is, especially when you have your heart and your mind set on something. But things change, and that's where the birth plans come into play. Just make sure that, okay, if this were to happen, how does that look like for you? You know, if you were to have a C-section, you know, how does that look like? Like, what would you like for that to look like? Sure.
So I am listening to this audiobook. It's The Birth Partner by Penny Simkin. And she has this whole section in there about C-sections. C-sections have, I'd say they're getting less, but they have always been my biggest fear in childbirth. Like, people are like, you're so brave for having a home birth. I'm like, no, man. The C-section mamas are the brave ones because holy moly, that's a massive surgery.
It sure is.
And it just scares the ever-living whatever out of me. So I'm like, all right. So I put in my birth plan, you know, in the event of a C-section, blah, blah, blah. I had like a couple lines in there of whatever. I'm listening to this book, and I got to the chapter like 2 nights ago. I was lying in bed, putting my kids to sleep, and I listened to my audiobooks then. And she's like, if you get a C-section, ask for, you know, I recommend you ask for this kind of suture as opposed to this one. I was like, huh? She's like, because it'll help you with future, you know, if you want to go for a VBAC, a vaginal birth after C-section, you're more likely to be successful if you have, it's got whatever, double something rather than a single layer, you know, stitch or whatever it is. I'm getting the, don't quote me, I'm not a doctor. This is good, go do your own research. And I was like, I need to have that in my next birth plan because I don't plan on having a C-section. I'm still very much not a fan of the idea of myself getting a C-section, but in the event that it happens, I want it to be the best possible outcome, even in the worst, you know, it's not the worst, in a worst case scenario, you know? And I was like, man, and I'm learning this after having had 2 babies already and having written 2 birth plans and so forth. And I'm like, I want to help mamas get, you know, and you don't want to think about it. You don't, sometimes I was like, I don't want to pack a hospital bag because then I'm already in the mindset of like, I'm going to the hospital. And I'm like, yeah, but also you put on a seatbelt when you get in the car, right?
Exactly.
Do you plan to get into a car accident every time you get in the car? No. Absolutely not. But do you make sure to put on a seatbelt? Yes. So same thing with the birth plan and the hospital bag. It's like,
you just have to, it's not that that's what you're planning on. It's just being prepared, because when you're in control, it makes a difference. It makes a difference on the attitude that you're bringing to the table. It's just everything is just different when you feel like you're in control. Even with families, like I talk to my moms, it's a tough topic, but hey, you know, if your child has to go for any reason into the NICU, what does that look like for you? And does the hospital that you're choosing support what you want that to look like for you in the case that this needs to happen? Because it looks very different when your child is being pulled out of the room to be taken to the NICU and you are basically, you know, in shock. You don't know what's going on. And then if you have your birth plan, you're like, hey, you know what? Okay, I planned for this, and this is what I want. It looks very different because here you have a confident mom knowing exactly what she wants and knowing that the hospital that she's going to deliver at is going to offer that for her. Mm-hmm. So it's just being prepared and, you know, and ready for whatever outcome happens.
Agreed. Yeah, and you know, like, of course, these things are hard to talk about, and nobody wants to think about a NICU. Nobody wants to think about an emergency C-section. If you're planning a home birth, nobody wants to think about transferring to the hospital. Like, these are all unpleasant thoughts, but it's like an insurance policy, you know, like if you're like, okay, if I think about it now, then I don't have to think about it in the event that it happens.
Exactly.
I've already done the thinking. Now I just have to go through the motions. And you know, you just think about it once and then have it over with. You know, you don't
That's done.
have to
Just put it in the bag. We don't have to use it if we don't have to use it. But if we
That's right.
do, we have it.
Yeah, it's your mental first aid kit because man, making major decisions like, you know, labor brain is real. It's a thing.
It is.
You're not able to just sit there and have some time to just undistractedly make rational decisions. You do your best, of course, but it's hard because your body's doing a whole lot of something that's not normal operating basis, you know? So,
And then you have the doctors coming in with this verbiage that you don't understand, and you're trying to go through a contraction and you don't know what's happening, and you're just signing papers and you're not even double check. It gets overwhelming. So if you have a plan, make sure that the people that you have in there with you, your support system, knows your plan. They can advocate for you, and it's all good.
yeah, and if you're in the New Haven and Bridgeport area, you should hire a doula. I have one in particular.
Definitely.
Her
Definitely.
Birth is better with a doula, right?
Birth is better with the doula. You can't see
Yeah.
the rest.
They'll just have
I'm
to
not gonna
believe.
show you my sexy body.
But
But birth
birth
is definitely better with a doula or with a
indeed.
support, any kind of support person. Just but definitely better with a doula.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, and it's at the end of the day, it all comes down to your mindset, your planning, and everybody's going to be different, you know. One doula may be great for one mama and terrible for another. Everybody has different needs, everybody has different vibes, you know, like find the person that clicks. You found your midwife team and you probably knew when you were interviewing them like these are my people. This is where
These
it's
are
at.
my people, definitely. Yeah.
And you also know when it's not your people. You know, you walk in, you're like, oh man, you're just not my cup of tea. Somebody else is making.
Yep. And you don't have to feel bad about it. It's your right. Everything will be fine. You need to make sure that you are being taken care of the way that you need, and that you're being validated and you're being heard, because it's your birth. So
Yes, and your
be
obligation.
glorious. It's yours.
Your obligation lies to yourself and your baby, and nobody else. And a good doula and a good midwife will actually understand. I've seen, like, I'm in this Facebook group about, you know, moms planning, you know, home births or whatever. There was one mama that was like, man, you know, I have this midwife and she just hired this assistant midwife and she just makes me anxious. This assistant, I love my midwife, blah, 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 blah. I don't know what to do. And every comment underneath, I loved it. Everybody was like, talk to your midwife. She will understand. If she's as amazing as you're making her out to be, if she really truly understands, like, she's gonna get it. Like, okay, this person can't be at your birth because it's gonna ruin the flow. It's gonna ruin the oxytocin production and everything. Like, just talk to her. She's gonna understand. A good doula is never gonna be offended if you're like, yeah, not for me. It's okay. It's all right.
And it goes both ways, because I've done it myself. If I don't feel like it's a good fit, I'm going to pass. If I have anyone else that I can refer you to, I do that happily. But if I don't feel like I'm going to be an addition to your team, then I'm not going to take anything away from it. You know, it's I'm either going to add to it or I'm not going to be a part of it.
That makes sense. I love that. Well, we are almost at the end. You mentioned something about the verbiage that they throw at you at the hospital. So I'm going to do a shameless plug here. I have this book. It's called The Sensible Mama's Glossary. I wrote it. It is written in a way that does not require the mama to have a medical degree to understand what is happening with her pregnancy and with her birth.
Hey.
Yeah.
Where can we buy this book at?
You can buy this book on Amazon. You just look for The Sensible Mama's Glossary on Amazon.com. I will put a link into the description as well. You should get it. You should put it on your registry if you're pregnant. If you know somebody who's pregnant, you should get it for them even if it's not on their registry. Anyway, I'm super excited about it. It was a labor of love. My poor family had to endure every time I'd be like at the dinner table and I was like, oh, I know, anterior placenta. And I'd like go type and they're like, this woman is on something. Like, this is crazy.
Oh, bless your family.
It was a good time. I'm still thinking, I threw in a lot of words. It's 127 pages of terms, all the terms.
Amazing.
Yeah, from birth to like what is the umbilical cord and the different parts of it and the different, like, there's a lot of anatomy involved in the making of and the growing of a baby. It helps to understand, and when your doctors start throwing things at you like, hey, you have this, or we should try that, or I recommend this procedure or that procedure, I wrote it in a way that some things are actual emergencies, but I wrote the definitions in a way that, okay, just look at what it is. You have options. Take a breath. Understand it. Now that you understand it, now move forward.
Exactly. We need that in other languages. Spanish, please.
That's
So
a
I can help
great. Okay, I'm gonna do
I
another
can
shameless
help
plug.
my Spanish community.
If there is somebody out there who is a professional translator into Spanish, hit me up. Give me, go to.
I'm right here.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. I found one. We're going to get back to you in a little bit, and we will have that ready for you. Fantastic. Honestly, though, that's a great idea. We're going to talk about this when we're off here. All right, so that's all of my shameless plugs. Gissell, where can people find you for the people in the New Haven and Bridgeport, Connecticut counties? What openings do you have? How can they book an appointment with you to see if you're the right fit for their birth team?
So you can reach me via phone, email. I also have my socials, which is Instagram. So _crafty_doula, and also on Facebook, the Crafty Doula as well. And I also have my website, which is www.thecraftydoula.com.
Perfect. I will link all of those in the description as well, so you can easily find her. Book an appointment, please. Thank you all so much. Gissell, thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
A very, very unique story, and I'm really glad we had a chance to talk about it. I hope it helps some mamas out there. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everybody. See you in the next episode. Bye.